I don't want to get too specific, but I'm dating someone in a touring band, my husband. We'll call him Zeke. I met Zeke through social media back in 2019 when he was trying to separate from an hurtful ex-wife. We met up when he was home between tours/obligations. We lived in the same city and had some professional connections through my former job, so it was easy to make plans. However, he was concerned about the morality of being physical with me before he actually got divorced. So we hung out, I went to parties and met his band, their significant others. They were all aware of how toxic Zeke's relationship had become because they were witnesses to how he was treated while on their last tour. She was hurtful in every way and didn't care if they saw. It was a little strange at first for everyone involved, which I thought was to be expected. Everyone definitely warmed up to me after a while, though. Zeke had been able to obtain a protective order against his ex while the divorce proceedings played out, so everyone was honestly just happy to see Zeke happy, despite how emotionally fraught the situation was. They were all getting adjusted to a new life, honestly. Zeke's ex had been with them for literal decades. I could totally understand how weird it would be to have an outsider enter into their scene and not really totally understand all the inside jokes and stuff without Zeke translating for me. It was slow but steady progress until they really loosened up and started trusting me. A year later, and I was thrilled with my life. Another tour started in early 2020, and Zeke asked me if I wanted to come along. I was between jobs at the time anyway, so I said, frick it, why not? While on the road, I became particularly close with the other gals, and we had a great time hanging out together when the band was busy during the days of performances, setting up and practicing, or when they were on stage. Zeke's band members also became very fond of me. I could feel an entire energy shift, and I felt welcome. This tour was honestly freaking fun until the pandemic hit. Luckily, we all stayed in touch virtually, created a closed circle of contacts so we could hang out in person safely, and then eventually were able to hang out in public once things opened up more. Zeke and his band went on a few tours during 2022, early 2023, but I was still freaked out and didn't want to go. Fast forward to fall 2023, when Zeke was about to go on another tour, and Zeke really wanted me to go. I hadn't been feeling great physically for a few weeks, vague stomachache/heartburn, peeing a lot, sensitivity to smells, so I thought I was probably literally the worst person to bring along on tour. He seemed to be kind of sad because the tour started right after his birthday, and birthdays always made him feel really bummed out. I felt like I'd be abandoning him if I didn't go as emotional support. I found out I was pregnant at an urgent care while we were on the road. I delayed everyone by an entire day, basically, and felt extremely guilty. On the plane, I started feeling super sick and kept having to heave as quietly as I could into sick bags while Zeke rubbed my back. He was worried something more serious was happening and wanted me to see a doctor. As I was sitting on the table with an IV for dehydration, a nurse came in and told me my pregnancy test was positive. Zeke and I made up a story about my health for the band to excuse me when I left the tour. The nausea didn't go away for a while, so I'm glad I had the foresight to tap out. I waited eagerly for Zeke to come back, and he arrived with a ring and plans to get married at the courthouse. I said yes, and we invited like 10 people to come dine with us afterward. They were all pretty surprised at how sudden it was. I assume they probably guessed, but whatever. We hadn't told them yet, in case there were early complications. I've never been pregnant before, so I have no clue how my body responds. Over the holidays, we finally told everyone once I was 4 months pregnant. At the time, everyone seemed super excited. Well, I think they were full of shoot. As time has gone on, I have felt a complete shift of energy in the group. There has been passive aggressiveness towards me and Zeke that I've never seen before. The entire band and their partners are treating me differently. They're at least more civil with Zeke, but they've still been hanging out without him and being super dismissive about it. He talked to them about it and they had no explanation. They just said, "Oh, we thought you were busy." I don't know if I'm being crazy because of hormones or something, but that feels weird to do if that's not how you normally communicate in a relationship. They're usually really open with each other when it comes to plans or why those plans fell through. It just feels cold now, like they want Zeke to seek them out or something. I mean, I'm not stupid. I understand that having a baby changes relationship dynamics, but I'm just so confused. Zeke's bandmates are normally super emotionally competent people and are really skilled at talking through issues. I've watched arguments unfold with Zeke and them before, and I've honestly been envious of how well all of them worked things out. They don't stay mad at each other for very long, and I always felt like that was a really endearing thing. I'm freaking out, like, did I ruin everything by getting pregnant? I understand that maybe they think we moved quickly. Is 4 years quickly? Is that a reason to be so weird? I understand if they feel like they are having trouble talking to me. I can wait for them to be ready. But why aren't they talking to Zeke? How do we proceed? What can Zeke even do if he's already tried to bring up the weirdness with them and they brushed him off? Is he going to have to wait for months to figure out if his bandmates are completely judging us? I feel really awkward and unsettled, and I feel empathy for Zeke. I don't know what's going on. What would you do? I want to invite them to baby-related parties and stuff, and I kind of hoped I'd have them around as friends to celebrate with us. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Bluntly, maybe. There is a big age gap, and if they are all able to dedicate time and energy into their band and touring, an infant is very dramatically going to change things. Are you going to want to stay home with the baby or go on tour? Do you think the group will want a baby on tour? What about when the kid gets sick, joins teams, or has events? How will you feel if your partner can't be there? How would he feel if the band decides to replace him if he wants to take time off to be a present parent? Two things can also be true at once. They are probably really happy for you guys and feeling sad knowing that a massive change is about to take place with the relationship and band. Comment 2. From their perspective, they knew his ex for decades. Everyone is friends. Then while he's still married, some young girl, 12 to 15 years their junior, comes in and starts dating Zeke. They eventually warm up to you, but then you get pregnant and have a shotgun wedding with their buddy, and their whole dynamic is on the verge of collapsing. They are child-free 40-something musicians. They're not going to be overjoyed by a baby. They probably feel like Zeke's priorities are about to shift big time. Of course, the vibes are weird. Now, for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for all the support on my last post. It's been a wild week, and I've got some updates that I'm still trying to wrap my head around. So, after I shared how things were getting weird with Zeke's band and their significant others, things took a turn for the worse. Zeke and I were trying to figure out why everyone was acting so distant, and we thought maybe they were just adjusting to the idea of us having a baby. But nope, it was much more than that. Remember how I said Zeke's ex was hurtful? Well, turns out she had been reaching out to the band behind our backs. She was spinning this story about how Zeke and I had an affair while they were still together, which is totally not true. Zeke and I only got close after he had left her and was trying to get a divorce. But she was really good at playing the victim, and some of the band started to believe her lies. One of the band members, let's call him Mike, confronted Zeke about it. They had a huge argument right in the middle of rehearsal. Mike accused Zeke of being a cheater and said the band was considering kicking him out because of the drama. Zeke was devastated. He had been with this band for years, and they were like family to him. To hear that they might kick him out over something that wasn't even true was heartbreaking. I felt so guilty. It was like my worst fear had come true, that I had somehow ruined Zeke's life. I remember how excited he was when he first joined the band. He used to tell me stories about their early days, playing in small clubs and dreaming of making it big. And now, because of his ex's lies, all of that was at risk. Zeke tried to explain the truth, but the damage was done. The trust was broken. The band decided to take a break to figure things out, and Zeke was left wondering if he still had a future with them. Meanwhile, I was dealing with my own issues. The pregnancy was getting more difficult, and I was feeling really isolated. With the band turning against us, I didn't have the support system I thought I would have. It was just Zeke and me, trying to navigate this mess together. But then, another news dropped. One of the band members' girlfriends, who I had become close with during the tours, admitted to me that she had known about the ex's lies all along. She had kept it a secret because she didn't want to get involved. I couldn't believe it. I had trusted her, confided in her, and all this time she knew what was happening and didn't say anything. I felt so betrayed. It was like everything I thought I knew about these people was a lie. Zeke was my rock through all of this, but I could tell it was taking a toll on him too. He was quieter, more withdrawn. I knew he was hurting, and I didn't know how to help him. The tension was unbearable. We tried to keep things normal, but it was like there was this dark cloud hanging over us. Every time we saw the band or their partners, it was awkward and forced. Conversations were short, and no one looked us in the eye. And then, just when I thought things couldn't get any worse, Zeke's ex showed up at one of our small gatherings. She had the audacity to act like nothing was wrong, like she hadn't just tried to ruin our lives. Zeke asked her to leave, but not before she made a scene, accusing him of being a terrible person in front of everyone. It was a mess. People were taking sides, and it felt like we were in the middle of a war. Zeke and I left early, and on the way home, he broke down. He told me he felt like he was losing everything: his band, his friends, his sense of self. It was the first time I had ever seen him cry. We're still trying to figure out how to move forward. Zeke is talking to the band, trying to clear his name and salvage what's left of their relationship. I'm trying to focus on the baby and stay positive, but it's hard. I never imagined that our life together would turn into such a nightmare. Wife admits I'm her second or third choice and still loves her ex. I confront her. Hello, Reddit. Thanks for coming by because I certainly need all the help I can get. I've spoken to some of my closest friends and family about this, and the opinion is pretty mixed, so I figured I'd come here to get a more impartial opinion. I'm devastated, Reddit, and I don't know what to do. Here are the facts. My 33-year-old male, wife Sarah, 32-year-old female, is the love of my life. She's a woman of charm, grace, beauty, and accomplishment. I met her through mutual friends 6 years ago who thought that we'd be a good fit. At first, Sarah didn't seem to be too impressed with me, but as we chatted, she warmed up to me and we even exchanged numbers. We went on a date and had an amazing time that turned into another date, which turned into us dating and then eventually marriage. Sarah is such a warm, caring person who helped me through some tough times and was always there to pick me up, dust me off, pat me on the back, and help me move forward. I thought she would be the woman I'd raise a family with and grow old together with, but maybe that isn't the case. Last week, I was clearing our driveway from snow when I came back in the house to take a pee and overheard a phone conversation between Sarah and a friend of hers. Our house is very echoey, and I don't think she realized I was in the house because she thought I was still clearing the driveway. Recently, her friend broke up with her long-term boyfriend because she didn't feel like they were a long-term match. That's when Sarah said, unprompted, and I quote, because it was burned into my brain. I mean, it's a good thing you did this now. You don't want to end up with your second or third option like I did. I swear I thought she was joking, but from the tone of her voice, I could tell that she wasn't. Something told me to pull out my phone and record, so I did. The conversation continued with her saying, he's not the love of my life, but I do love him. And I guess the most damning of them all, if Paul, her ex, wasn't so terrified of marriage, I'd probably still be with him. She did conclude by saying that she really did love me, but it wasn't head over heels love, and that she thought I was a great husband and would be a good father someday. I have this all on recording. I was confused and flustered in that moment that I forgot I had to pee and went back outside to continue clearing the driveway. Inside, I was destroyed. I felt like a zombie just going through the motions. When I finished up, I went back inside and I finally looked at her and I just felt empty. She smiled at me, but I didn't give her one back. She asked me what was wrong, so I just told her I was sick. That night, I just stuck to myself and didn't say much. The next day, over some beers, I asked my best friends in the world, 33-year-old male, 34-year-old female, what they thought of the recording, and they immediately said to divorce. My friend Ashley, 34-year female, said, "If a woman admits that she doesn't love you more than her ex, there's nothing more to say." A day later, I brought this to my sister and parents, who took the opposite approach. They said I should listen to her words carefully, and that she said she does love me, that she chose to commit to me, and that even though I'm not her soulmate, I shouldn't take commitment and an admission of love so lightly. I've been faking being okay at home Reddit, and I don't think I can keep up the act much longer. She's been extremely suspicious since that day and constantly asks me if anything is wrong. I have no idea what to do, but I know I need to make a decision soon. Can you guys see anything here that I can't? Should I give Sarah a chance? Do you think she really loves me? Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. To be fair, it's true for a lot of us. Who we marry are not always our first choice, or we still think about a past exciting love, our first soulmate, whatever. Unlike in the movies, we don't always or can't settle with the one we wish to. However, we don't say it. After a while, we don't think about it. We forget it, and we commit fully to our spouse. That's how we rebuild a strong and new love. What concerns me in your story is not that you are her second choice. What concerns me is that she didn't let go of these thoughts. She didn't mentally embrace you as your husband with the respect that it deserves. And finally, that she talks about it to a friend. How could she think it's comforting to hear? Honestly, if I heard you don't want to end up with your second option, I would end it up. That would just break my heart and my vision of her. I can't see how it can be recovered from counseling because, let's be honest, if you confront her, she will give you different interpretations to try to make you swallow this pill. She probably has affection for you. She is probably happy with you, but you might never be happy with her because what you heard will never leave. Comment 2. Obviously, you have to talk to her about this. There really is no other way. I'm in solid agreement with /u TMCHD that you should not share the recording, though. The difficulty would be in how to start the conversation. A number of options are running through my head. You probably want to start with something like, "I know you've sensed something has been off, and I haven't been entirely honest with you lately. Yes, something is wrong." From there, you have a few options, and it really depends on how you want to frame the conversation. Were you ever going to tell me I wasn't your first choice? Or, if X came back into your life today, would you leave me? Or, I probably shouldn't have eavesdropped the other day, but I heard what you told friend about how I wasn't your first choice and am not the love of your life. To say that it hurt is a bit of an understatement. Ultimately, it comes down to you as to how you want to proceed. It's a conversation that needs to happen, though, and happen soon. Now for the update. Hey again, Reddit. It's been a week since my last post, and wow, things have been intense. I've got an update for you all, and it's been a roller coaster. I've been trying to act normal around Sarah, but inside, I'm a mess. I've been replaying that conversation she had over and over in my head, and it's been eating me alive. So, a couple of days after my last post, Sarah and I were having dinner. It was just like any other night, except I could tell she was trying to be extra nice to me. She made my favorite dish, and she was being all sweet and attentive. It was like she knew something was up. I couldn't take it anymore, so I decided to confront her about what I heard. I didn't tell her about the recording at first. I just asked her if she was happy with our marriage. She looked surprised and said, "Of course I am. Why would you ask that?" That's when I brought up Paul, her ex. Her face went pale and she was silent for a moment. Then she started crying and admitted that she had been in touch with Paul recently. Turns out, Paul had reached out to her a few weeks ago. He was going through a rough patch and wanted someone to talk to. Sarah said she felt bad for him and wanted to help. She insisted that nothing happened between them, but she did admit that talking to him made her question our relationship. She said she was confused and didn't know what she wanted anymore. I was shocked, Reddit. I felt like my whole world was crashing down around me. I couldn't believe that Sarah, the woman I thought was my partner for life, was having doubts about us. I asked her if she still loved me, and she said she did, but she also still had feelings for Paul. We had a long, emotional talk that night. Sarah apologized for hurting me and said she never meant for any of this to happen. She said she wanted to make things right and work on our marriage. I didn't know what to do. Part of me wanted to forgive her and try to move past this, but another part of me felt betrayed and couldn't let it go. I decided to take a few days to clear my head. I stayed with my friend Ashley, who's been a rock for me through all of this. She's been helping me sort through my feelings and figure out what I want to do. It's been tough, but I'm grateful for her support. Meanwhile, Sarah has been blowing up my phone with texts and calls. She's been begging me to come home and talk things out. She even sent me a long email, pouring her heart out and apologizing for everything. She said she's willing to do whatever it takes to make our marriage work. I finally went home yesterday to talk to Sarah face to face. It was a difficult conversation, but we both laid everything out on the table. Sarah said she's willing to cut all contact with Paul and go to couples therapy with me. She said she wants to prove to me that she's committed to our marriage and that she truly loves me. I'm still not sure what to do. Reddit. Part of me wants to give Sarah a chance and try to rebuild our relationship, but another part of me is scared that I'll never be able to trust her again. It's a tough decision, and I'm still trying to figure it out. My lazy boyfriend of 5 years has never had a job, and now he's cuddled up with his only friend. I kick him out, but he returns saying he has nowhere else to go. We've been together for almost 5 years. In all that time, they have never had a job. We've had massive fights in the past about it, and even recently, as a month ago, because we live in really bad poverty. It's become common for water to get shut off for a few days per month because we are constantly behind on the bills. We struggle with food, our washing machine, oven, but not stove, and TV are broken. My car is falling apart and has a broken headlight and mirror and needs repairs. Since January, I've been working 2 jobs. At first, I was optimistic that I would be able to save up money, but I just don't think I can support 2 people even working 2 jobs. And it would be one thing if they helped out in other ways. But I'm expected to cook and clean as well as work. The house is filthy. It's super roach infested. They don't do anything but sit on a couch all day and play Overwatch. When I worked 1 job, I managed to keep up with cooking and cleaning. But I find it almost impossible working 2 jobs, which leads me to spend a lot of money on stuff like fast food, which eats away at the extra money I would get from working 2 jobs because I'm simply too tired to cook. I feel resentful because there are disability-friendly jobs they could look into, but bringing that up is 100% guaranteed to cause a massive fight with screaming and them accusing me of being ableist. Sometimes it feels like they use the term ableist like a battering ram to end any discussion that might make them slightly uncomfortable. I really want to end this relationship and move on with my life, but they lack the ability to support themselves. And a few times after fights, when I have brought up that it would be better for both of us if we separated, they simply said, "But I have nowhere to go." And that's the end of the discussion. In the past, they have even made comments like, "You'll never get rid of me," which makes me super resentful thinking about it. They know I care enough about them that I don't want to see them homeless, but I feel utterly trapped. Neither of us has any friends in real life, except one that we see occasionally, but they never leave the house. I constantly think about how life would be so much easier if I only had to support myself. I don't see any future with this relationship. Their food stamps expired a few months ago, and it feels like I had to pull teeth to get them to even agree to try to get them renewed again. They've agreed to try, but I was nervous even bringing it up because I was expecting a hostile reaction. They are from a different state and don't have any family they could go to stay with. Kicking them out and forcing them into homelessness seems cruel, and I care too much about them to do it. But sometimes it seems like they exploit that fact. I would love to help build them up and become able to support themselves, but it really feels like they aren't even trying. And any efforts have to be done super gently, or it will devolve into a screaming match. And if things go too far, stuff will start getting thrown and broken. That's what happened to our TV. It's 4 a.m. and I'm laying in bed thinking about my life and future. I want to begin a new chapter in my life, but I feel stuck with them, As long as I'm taking care of two people, I feel like I will be stuck in roach-infested poverty no matter how hard I work or try. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. When is your lease up? It sounds like that would provide an opportunity for you to make a clean break. Let them know that you'll be finding a place just for you, and tell them that they will need to figure things out when the lease is up. Realistically, there's nothing in this relationship for you. You're working yourself to an unhealthy extent while also putting in all of the household labor, and your partner doesn't give a shoot. That's not a healthy dynamic, regardless of if you're their carer or not. Comment 2. Just leave. Your partner is cruel and manipulative and weaponizes her disability to get herself a slave who brings in the money and does all the cooking and cleaning. When you break up with her and she says, "I have nowhere to go," you say, "That's not your problem." You're done enabling her nonsense. And she's a 38-year-old woman who needs to figure shoot out on her own. If she threatens unalived, you call the police and you just leave. She'll never change. So you need to save yourself ASAP. Now for the update. Hey everyone, a lot has happened since my last post, and I just need to vent. I thought things couldn't get worse, but here we are. So, remember how I mentioned my partner never had a job in the 5 years we've been together? Well, last week they finally got an interview. I was over the moon, thinking maybe this was the turning point. But guess what? They didn't show up for it. Said they weren't feeling it that day. I was furious, especially after working a double shift the day before, only to come home to a dark house because the power got cut off again. I confronted them about it, and it turned into the mother of all fights. They threw the broken TV remote at me this time. I couldn't believe it. I've been busting my back at 2 jobs, and they can't even attend 1 interview? I was so mad I couldn't see straight. But that's not even the juicy part. The next day, I came home early from job number 2 because I was feeling sick. And what do I find? My partner, on the couch, not alone. They were cuddled up with our only friend, the one we occasionally see. I was shocked. I mean, I knew our relationship was in the dumps, but to see them like that, in our roach-infested living room, where I couldn't even afford to fix the broken oven, it was a slap in the face. I lost it. I screamed at them both to get out. My partner had the nerve to look surprised, as if they didn't know why I was upset. And our friend? They just shrugged and said, "It's not what it looks like." Yeah, right. I thought that was the end of it, but no. Later that night, my partner came back, crying, saying they had nowhere to go. I remembered all the times they said, "You'll never get rid of me," and it felt like a prophecy. I didn't want them on the streets, but I also couldn't stand the sight of them. In the middle of all this chaos, I got a call from my boss at my first job. They noticed I've been looking run down and offered me a promotion. More money, but also more responsibility. I wanted to be happy, but how could I with everything else falling apart? I told my partner about the promotion, hoping it might spark something in them to try harder. Instead, they accused me of trying to make them feel guilty for not working. It was like talking to a brick wall. And remember the food stamp situation? They still haven't renewed them. I've been skipping meals just to make sure we have enough to eat. I'm so tired all the time, and I can barely focus at work. I'm scared I'll mess up and lose the promotion before I even officially get it. I've been thinking a lot about our past. When we first met, they were so different. They had dreams, ambitions. We used to talk about opening a small business together. But now, it's like all that drive is gone. They've become this person who just takes and takes, and I don't even recognize them anymore. I've tried to be understanding. I know they've had a rough life, with their family disowning them and moving to a new state. But I've had my share of struggles too. I've always believed in working hard to get out of a tough spot, but it seems like they've just given up. I'm at my wit's end. I can't keep living like this, but I also can't just throw them out. I care about them, despite everything. It's like I'm trapped in this cycle of hope and disappointment. And to top it all off, my car finally broke down for good. The headlight and mirror were one thing, but now the engine's gone kaput. I can't afford repairs, and without a car, getting to my jobs is going to be a nightmare. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.